All right, good morning, good evening, good night. It is another episode of the Layer 1 podcast. I know I messed up the link, guys. You can calm down in the comments here. We are going to have ourselves an amazing episode, even though Reggie's feeling a little under the weather for just the flu symptoms and things like that he's dealing with where he's at. But we are going to have ourselves an awesome episode. Reggie, how are you doing today, my man?
I'm doing pretty good besides the flu symptoms, yeah.
That's awesome. We're going to talk all things Gather. You guys just released your mainnet. You have a fantastic background. I was going to leave this till the end. I was going to leave this till the last question, but I want to make it the first. You're on a crypto fight undercard. What is going on there, and how can I get involved on betting on that?
So I'll start with a backstory. I think like a couple months ago, it was a boys' night over here. So the guys from Redstone Cap, White Palm Ventures, and then my CFO from Gather, we were all out having drinks, and how most boys night go, we got a little smashed. And the CFO of Gather and Cameron from Rarestone were both ex-boxers, or they had boxing experience. So they started placing bets about, okay, who can take each other. And that's how the first fight came on in the main event. And then Crypto Cactus from White Palm, we just kind of like came to the conclusion, all right, if these guys are fighting, let's do it. Me and you as the undercard. And it came out as Team Gather versus Team VC. And then a couple months later, it just opened up to the public. And it's turning into what you see right now, where you're having a bunch of big names join us as well. And in terms of betting, I would say contact Abu Salah or Mo on Twitter specifically, and he can probably guide you for the best way to do this. I think there are multiple platforms that are facilitating bets with different odds on different fighters.
I think so. We have the Lads community here in Lads City. This is obviously the Layer 1 podcast. For those of you that are just tuning in, we interview the best founders in the space. Most interesting, definitely, we have one here with Reggie, but we will get involved. Our community will get involved in betting on this, I promise you. So the date is going to be October. Is that what you were telling me earlier?
Correct. October 15th or October 16th.
Okay, and training regimen starts when?
It started. I mean, I was in the gym at 7 a.m. in the morning today. It's been going on for most of us for a little bit, for a couple of weeks at least.
Got it. Okay, sounds good. All right, this is what we're going to do, guys. Let me know if my audio is good. Let me know if Reggie's audio is good. Otherwise, we are going to hop into the episode. I want to talk about the background. You guys had a raise, I believe, seed kind of raise there in 2018. You kind of hit the bear market, all that stuff that we're going to get into. But I really want to ask a question that I'm not used to asking first. It's going to be, what is Gather Network attempting to do here? You guys, if I'm not mistaken, the website says your goal is to provide digital monetization via processing power. So I want to kind of break that down. What's going on with Gather Network? What is Gather Network before we get back into your team?
Sure. So essentially what Gather aimed to do when we started out was just provide an alternative form of monetization for publishers. You know, the backstory was, I'm not sure if you're familiar with something called CoinHive.
CoinHive, yep.
Yeah. So when I was hired as a consultant for a publisher many years ago, discovered CoinHive, and that idea of trading revenue for processing power. I saw it as very powerful, but I'd worked in advertising for a bit. I knew that's just not going to fly with major publishers. They want fiat payout, they want compliance measures, you need consent, and a bunch of other things. So I worked upon the idea, brought the initial core team together, and the first version of Gather was a multi-miner, which is mine other cryptocurrencies based on profitability and pay out in publishers and fiat. And there was there was GTH within the ecosystem itself. Over the years, we saw multiple use cases for that processing power that kind of evolved into what it is today. It's very different. One, it's providing an alternative form of monetization for publishers and applications. Two, it's providing a cheaper form of cloud computing for developers and enterprises. And three, developers and even enterprises can come and deploy on our layer 2 or child chain specifically.
Got it. Okay, so you guys had this idea back early 2018. You started to kind of formulate the process of creating the company. You did a seed raise, and then the old bear market hit. I was definitely around back then. I was at ICO Alert, a company that provided advertising for ICO companies, and the ICO market bottomed out. So I feel your pain there, but you survived We really didn't. But tell me a little bit about that story of doing that seed raise then, and then what it's been like up until mainnet today, or I mean, in the past week.
For sure. So I think we formulated the idea in December of 2017 and just got everything kind of ready by April 2018. Around that time, to just get everything to the right format. And we ended up raising about 300,000 or so in the dojo, the trading dojo run by Jake and a bunch of other guys. And the idea was back then everyone was raising stupid money, like 50, 100, 150, 200, and then you have your tons raising billions and stuff, right?
Mm-hmm.
So we were like, no, let's do a modest raise, because at the heart I'm an entrepreneur, right? We take what we need, we deliver what we're going to do, we prove our concept, and then we raise what we need for the next version, for scaling, etc. So we raised the 300. We built out the initial POC, and we went and presented it at Rise Hong Kong in June of that year, and everyone loved it. It made so much sense, right? We got traction from initial publishers, and we're like, perfect. Now we can go to the ICO, right? We have validation for this proof of concept. Let's go on to the next steps. And then the bear market hit, and that was horrible.
So take me kind of through when getting through the bear market, what that was like. I know I was kind of doing my research pre-interview, talking about, or you guys were talking about doing the ramen thing, the making sure that you guys were, extending that runway as needed. Take me through that time up until about this past week.
For sure. So I think from July till probably 2020, yeah, 20 July 2018 to 2020, we were living on, I mean, like not just ramen life, like dry ramen life, like the worst. It was a very interesting period how we all survived. So initially the founders, all of us came together. We put up whatever scratch we could, and we were using it to fund development, to just keep hitting the next milestones, make sure the servers were still running. And if someone had some emergency in terms of payments, or like, okay, I don't know, someone has like a medical emergency or something, we do that. And that's how we went. We tried everything we could during the bear market. I mean, you name it, left, right, and center. We're trying every VC, knocking on every door, here, locally, internationally, but nothing. We'd raised something from like our advisors actually put in a small amount of money, which helped us. Nothing crazy, about 35,000. But back then, 35,000, when it came to us, we're like, oh my god, this is a godsend. Mm-hmm. That ramen then turned into proper cup noodles then at that point, I guess. And yeah, it was tough. It was honestly very tough, because I know the whole team was, you're being doubted by a lot of people, people close to you, family, all of them. And then we onboarded our CTO at some point in the middle of this bear market, because he had extreme belief in what we were doing, and he came from a cloud computing background, and that's when this pivot happened. And he actually brought on board a bunch of developers who work pro rata, well, not pro rata, but on equity. Everyone at this point was on equity and tokens, right? Albeit no tokens were listed, and the equity at that point was completely, let's be very realistic, was valueless. Mm-hmm. Everyone came on board. We delivered a bunch of POCs and proved the concepts. And during this bear market, when we had, I don't know if I can swear on this, but not.
Yeah, you can.
When we had fuck all, in all honesty, right? In terms of resources, nothing. We landed $1 billion client.
Wow.
So yeah, that was crazy, and that's hats off to our CTO, called Goldridge, by the way. And yeah, I mean, we kept trying to raise funds. We tried to do IEOs and stuff in the bear market. None of that crap worked. Mm-hmm. And then fast forward to 2020, when the market started to pick up. And the thing is, at that point, we had all the right ingredients for people to take us very, very seriously. I mean, at that point, we had a very, very strong team in terms of developers, the core team, the advisory board. So our private sale was extremely quick. I think there was 500,000 that was raised in 45 seconds in one place specifically, which was, when you think about it, like 2 years ago, like, damn.
Yeah.
will I have enough money to eat today? We're like, shit, this is good.
It's a great story, man, and you guys are quickly transforming from that portion of your timeline to a revenue generating company. I think having the uninitiated person kind of come in and come into this episode and have an understanding of how the model all works together with the token, with the Masternode stakers. Once it clicked for me when I was doing my pre-episode research, it was easy. It was perfect. It just made sense. Kind of take us through in the most clear way possible how all of this kind of works together for the holders, for the Masternode state, and the people that are going to be staking as well. Now that you have this latest release.
For sure. So, okay, on one side, you have the publishers that are earning Gather and other cryptocurrencies depending on what's being merge mined, right? Whatever's on the child chains. On the other side, you have masternodes and stakers, right? Masternodes provide the backbone to the Gather ecosystem because they're providing essentially decentralized servers, right? Where that storage and the processing power is being sold onto developers' enterprises as well. And we get paid in USD revenue as a company. 20% of what's being earned in the USD revenue is used for buyback and burns of the Gather token specifically. So that helps value accrue back to the token holders itself. Stakers, help secure the network the Gather ecosystem, right? Just because it's a hybrid blockchain. So you have POW on the publisher side, you have masternodes, and you have staking. for token holders as well, just recently with the current mainnet release, we had governance go live, and governance is a very important part of Gather. We've studied governance for a bit, and I think there's very different types of governance that exist. One good example, I'm not sure if people are ETH maxis or not, but for a let's just term it an organization that has all the resources, all the brain power in the world, they're extremely slow, and that's because they have too many decision makers, if you will, right? Whereas you have certain governance boards where it's just any token holder can come and submit a proposal and vote, right? So what this leads to is whales coming in and can create contentious proposals, right? Like just burn 99% of the supply. So how we want to design the supply or the governance mechanism was it's two layered. One is anyone can come and submit a proposal. It's about $50 worth of Gather. But that's going to go to a governance board, which is made up of 12 members. At the total of the 12 members, you have 2 people that are voted internally from Gather. You have 4 people who are voted from the ecosystem itself, or 6 if I'm not mistaken. So that includes Masternode holders, that includes stakers, that includes publishers, and that includes child chains. And the rest are external members, people who bring on selective expertise. So someone who may be a VC, for example, someone who may be from an exchange, someone who may be from a very, very big publishing house or a marketing and advertising firm. So collectively, when the proposal comes, it goes to this board, and the board then votes. But the public must approve the appointment of each of these board members.
So you're building out the governance infrastructure there.
Yes.
Got it. So I'm going to pull up a portion of the website. It's right on the front page, actually. It's going to be the index that talks about the solution, and I think it does a great job of explaining the 3-pronged kind of way you guys are going about this of actually going to web and mobile developers, going to enterprise, and then offering that cloud infrastructure. On one of your recent interviews, you were talking about having all of this set up and now just doing customer acquisition. So how do you get customers in, and what process are you taking right now to fill out this really good structure that you guys have? And how does that benefit in the long run the Gather holders?
For sure. So if you kind of break Gather apart, you have 2 main customer types, right? If we talk about publishers and specifically SMEs, they're generally very easy to acquire because they're mostly inbound, maybe a couple ads here and there. So you don't really need a dedicated B2B sales team or a customer acquisition team there. For larger publishers, let's say mainline audiences or famous brands, if you will, there you need a bit of B2B sales happening. Whereas on the cloud side, you need specialist B2B salespeople. So we've actually been interviewing someone, and hopefully the team has a call with him, our second call with him today in about an hour and a half. We can close him, and he looks like a very good fit to join us as vice president of cloud sales. So it's about building out the sales team to go and actively pitch their clients and their existing roster of old clientele on the cloud side. And on the publisher side, it's more about digital advertising. Even though that's something we're kind of against, it is a way for search at the end, search and discovery. So that's the two ways we usually are going looking at how to do customer acquisition. And then there's auxiliary stuff you need to do as well. It's about building Gather as a brand. You have three separate brands here, right? So you have Gather, you have Gather Online, you have Gather Enterprise, and you have Gather Cloud, sorry. And each of these brands have to be separated and built out as well. And once you have very strong brands, you're seeing it in the press more often, it helps build credibility.
Yeah, you talked about having a Series A as well in one of the interviews I recently watched, and using those funds to actually build out those businesses. So actually acquiring potential cloud infrastructure companies that already have customers, so that you don't have to go out and actually do the legwork there. You can have the capital do the legwork there. So how does that benefit the environment and the I guess ecosystem that you have currently now?
Time. I think in any bit, I mentioned this in a lot of interviews. We do not treat Gather like a blockchain project. We treat it as a business. KPIs, KRAs, reporting, structures, transparency, right? With that being said, why we want to acquire a cloud company specifically is because it accelerates our time to market and gets us access to users quickly. That's the most important thing, right?
Mm-hmm. Yeah, let's talk about the Mercury mainnet launch as well. You guys just had that launch about, I would say, I keep saying a couple days, but it definitely was in that time frame. So what does that do for the ecosystem here, and what does that do, kind of in general for the overview of what upgrades that provides?
So for the current mainnet release for Mercury, what happens is that this is now allowing publishers to come and actively use Gather right now. Before, it was kind of behind a closed wall, if you will. This release opens that up for publishers right now, which is, I think, one of the core facets of Gather.
Okay, and you guys have upcoming upgrades as well planned on your roadmap?
Correct.
Got it.
Yes, we do.
Okay. All right. The big thing for the Gather holders and people interested in the project, I mean, we're pretty much 25 minutes in here. For those people interested, Masternode staking is big, as well as, just general staking as you guys move forward with the upgrades to the protocol.
Yep.
So take us through, I'm an interested user. What can I do to get involved in Masternode staking?
Two things. As a holder, I think participate in governance. Run a Masternode. We're going to have a new Masternode batch come out soon. If you're not able to get in, you could, in the next release, we're going to have the NFTs out where you can then bid for earlier batches. You can put an auction bid saying, hey, I want to buy your Masternode since you're from batch one, etc. Because people from batch one have extremely low cost bases. They paid very, very little for it, and they've made extremely good money. I wish I could have gotten in, to be completely honest. But yeah, running a Masternode, if you're able to get in the current batch, do it. You can help secure the network. Your processing power is going to be used and supplied to the publishers, the cloud companies and enterprises, and participate in governance. I think that's a very, very key thing here. Community is a very key thing, and I always keep repeating that. Sorry, I'm a little slow right now. This flu is horrible.
No, you're fine, man. You're doing a great job. The APY and the staking rewards come from usage on the network. Is that where the APY is being generated? Like if we continue to get more activity on the network, is that where additional APY might come from, or how is that calculated?
Right now, the APY is so as we're transitioning into post mainnet, it turns into block rewards. Mm-hmm. It's a certain percent of the block rewards.
Got it. And
which is 22.5% if I'm not mistaken.
Okay, so it's static.
Yeah, at that point.
Got it. Okay.
It can be changed later down the road depending on if we're seeing that certain stakeholders are earning more or less depending on what their activity is or what their input is, right? Of course, that's going to go through a vote, etc. But yeah, right now it's 22.5% if I'm not mistaken.
Got it. I've generally been around masternodes. I've never set one up myself on a specific network, but I've had a lot of friends in the crypto community that have done so, and I know there's like a lot of contentiousness around when a masternode staker wants to maybe get out of the ecosystem, and you have a 7-day period where someone can say, okay, that person's unstaking, then they're going to sell, leads to a lot of volatility,
Yeah.
like you've mentioned. You're doing this NFT play here. I want you to break that down because it sounds like almost like an OTC trade to me. But maybe I'm digging up the wrong hole there. So break down what this NFT situation does with the masternode stakers.
I mean, an OTC play is an apt comparison for sure. Essentially, anyone who's participating in the Masternode program will be airdropped an NFT, right? This NFT represents your Masternode and your share of tokens. Think of it more of an access token rather than how most NFTs are being used for digital art, right? Now, this NFT, if you want to get out of your Masternode, you don't need to shut it down. You don't need to withdraw your tokens. You don't need to wait 7 days. And you don't need to go sell your tokens. You'd be able to auction it off on the secondary market. So without causing volatility on the primary market. And what happens here is because there's different price points, because there's different cost bases for multiple Masternode batches, you're going to see people, specifically for people in earlier batches, get a lot of really high offers for their Masternodes.
And so the NFT essentially, like you said, provides access. I'm just trying to break down the process there. So now I have access to that NFT. The NFT has the tokens within it, or how does that?
It's like an access key on a web UI, essentially.
Got it. Okay. All right. You mentioned governance. I want to go through kind of the foundation that you guys have. That obviously is a piece of utility tied to the Gather token as well. So if I have Gather token, I can actually participate in proposals that you've got going on within the network.
Or create one. Yep, or create one.
Got it. Okay. So we're going to continue to kind of go through the platform here. So we're going to touch on the ambassador program as well. I know that's going to be helping out, like build out the ecosystem. It's kind of a bounty program. Take me through the ambassador program there and in the different levels that you guys have set up.
Sure. I think we have Sapphire, Onyx, and Ruby. So each ambassador program is geared towards a certain audience. Now, the ambassador program, it's not been the best so far in complete honesty, but essentially we're looking for community reps for certain stakeholders. So for example, for publishers, for developers, developer outreach, and then for publisher outreach.
So we have Sapphire, Onyx, Ruby, and Emerald here. I've pulled it up on the screen. So what specifically are you guys looking for? I know you touched on it there, but can you kind of take us in detail on what the ambassador program is kind of helping you guys do, and have you had success with it so far of people, providing applications and that going through?
I think community has had the most success right now in the past since they've been live. And that's just what I'm saying is probably speculation. It's just because people are from the community have seen the ambassador program, they come and apply. They educate the community specifically, but that's had the most success right now. What we have seen a lot of success, and maybe I don't know if that's on the site, it's not, is the referral program. The referral program for publishers, which is essentially just like the ambassador program, but just packaged a little differently and with a different narrative, has a lot of success because the services for publishers sells itself, right? You make money. You don't have to rely on ads, or you could if you wanted to. A lot of people have approached us for referral programs. Okay, I can get you this publisher, I can get you that publisher. What can you cut us in, etc. We're seeing a lot of success and a lot of inbound interest for referral programs.
Got it. Okay, I'm on your tech page now. I'm going to kind of make my way down to the roadmap to make sure we cover what you guys have in the future. But a lot of good points here on this technology page as well, kind of usage and how the whole ecosystem works that you guys can go ahead and take a look at here. But take me through the roadmap, Reggie, and let me know what you guys have coming up as you guys get set for these other upgrades that we were talking about earlier.
For sure. So I'm just going to pull it up as well. My brain's a little slow right now. And one thing I should mention, watch out, keep an eye out for our new website that's coming out, or rebranding, if you will. Small rebrand is the best way to put it.
Oh, man.
Yeah, so I think we're going to have, Minerva Release is the next one, which is going to include, Right. Yeah. No. Before Minerva, it's going to be NFTs. That's going to be a big one. And I believe there's a tech call today where we're scoping out exactly what's going to be in Minerva, and between at the NFTs and Minerva. Right now, I haven't heard back from the tech team yet. It's kind of late for them. It's probably about 9:30.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, 9:30 for them. Yeah. So staking masternodes or loyalty referral programs, fiat and other currency payouts. So fiat and other currency payouts are actually active right now. We have something called Transact. So if you wanted to buy Gather via I don't know debit or credit card, you can do that, or even bank transfers. You can do that using transact.io, if I believe is the correct link. But we're looking to add other payment providers on there, right, for on ramps and off ramps. Make it easier for publishers, etc., anyone that wants to participate, and it settles on Uniswap essentially. So the referral programs you see that we have mentioned here is what people are privately dealing with us right now, but we're going to open that to the public completely. The loyalty program is a very interesting feature I don't think we've mentioned yet, which is a very good competitive advantage for publishers. So if you're a publisher and you have site A and site B, and you're providing the same amount of content, right? Let's say you have layer 1 and you have another website, let's call it layer 1.2. Layer 2, sure, layer 2, right? Somewhat similar content, but one website is giving you some form of tangible value and currency back. What the loyalty program does is that you can opt to share a certain percent of your revenue with your users in the form of Gather. So now some publishers are going to be very greedy and be like, I'm not giving you anything, I'm keeping it all for myself. But people who see the value in this sharing 3%, 4%, 5%, 10%, whatever it may be, in the long run, you're going to retain more users quicker.
Yes, definitely. So let's talk on the Gather Jupiter release, and then we will kind of get into community questions, and then kind of wrap up the episode.
For sure. Sorry. Okay, so Gather Cloud, child chains, and Gather Online for applications. So for Gather Online for applications, that means the SDK for mobile apps. Yeah, child chains, this is the interesting one. And there's a lot going on right now, which I don't want to tease too much. I might have mentioned in a different episode, but some very, very exciting stuff, which I know the community is going to love when they see it. And Gather Cloud is the private, public, and hybrid cloud solutions.
Got it. Okay. All right. Last, I guess, tough question that I'll ask you before we get into the fun stuff and the community questions. Sure. The partnerships that you guys have kind of laid out in your blog. I mean, your blog's filled with people who are looking to utilize the protocol and bring their value into the ecosystem a little bit. Tell me about some of the most popular or most important or your favorite as it comes to a lot of these partnerships. I saw YF Die. I saw a bunch of different ones, but what do you got?
So I think one of them has to be Chromia, for the reason that besides them, no one else was interested in monetizing dApps. So if you think about it from this perspective, you're a dApp developer, right? You've deployed whatever dApp it may be, but you should earn from it, right? So using Gather, you could monetize that dApp, and that's what the partnership is about. And I think that's really, really exciting because it's specifically crypto related, right? That's a really exciting one for us. Another one is Decenter, and that was, I think, one of our first as well, because they're a browser, and we're going to be monetizing their browser specifically. So that's a very exciting one as well.
Got it. You mentioned a browser, and I did look at these comments a little bit as I was watching your other interviews, and we have one here from Crypto Stamina saying, sounds like a reverse Brave auto contribute. Do you get the Brave comment a lot? Like this sounds a little bit like, how do you kind of differentiate yourself there from a potential competitor, or if you see them as a competitor at all?
Brave still relies on ads at the end of the day. We don't. That's the biggest difference. Brave just raised a lot more money, in all honesty, right? They're just burning cash to acquire at this point. If someone really digs into their business model and how it works and how sustainable it is, you'll know it doesn't make sense it can't sustain without just plowing cash into it.
Got it. Okay. So this is what we're going to do. We're going to open this up to the community. So guys, if you are in the comments and you have any questions for Reggie here, if it's related to his fight, you can ask those too. We've got it open. We have a lot of UFC fans in our community here. So, so guys, open up the comments a little bit. If you do have any questions, drop them there. Reggie, we touched on a lot as it's related to the Gather network here. Did we miss anything in particular that maybe you want to touch on before we kind of open this up and kind of get on with the episode?
For sure. There's two things I want to mention. I think I mentioned this internally. It's known, but the way we do development is that it's kind of split. We've built a full-time team within India itself, and then we have an on-demand team in Ukraine and around that area. And I'm sure people are aware of what happened within India, recently with COVID. And in the last month, leading up to the mainnet release, day 30 out or 20 days out, 20% of our Indian development team was down with COVID or their family had COVID. As we got closer to the mainnet release, it was getting to 40%, 50%. And the day before the mainnet release was actually 70% of all our development team in India were all out. There was one lady, she was responsible actually the deployment of the mainnet. She actually had COVID and the high fever, but she went and deployed, and we got the mainnet. They got the mainnet out in time. So I just want to say hats off to them guys, because if you know any other projects that are have teams that are based in India, it's a very, very tough time right now. It's extremely tough, and obviously to our Ukrainian team as well. It is a big part. So when you see we're being quiet and dealing with things, it's because there's real stuff happening in the background. We just want to deliver at that point. Yeah, that. I think that's the only thing I really want to mention.
Yeah, shout out to your team there, and hopefully they can be okay as we kind of get through this pandemic a little bit. So, okay, this is a personal question here. So we have a team here that is definitely remote as well. So none of us actually live even remotely close to each other, pun intended. How do you deal with leading a remote team? Like what kind of tips and features maybe? I know we got a lot of guys in the chat that are building different things with people around the world. What is a tip there for people who are creating with remote teams?
It depends on the stage of the team initially. When it's just 4 people, you just have to have extreme trust and accountability in each other, right? You don't want stuff like procrastination, laziness, people putting off tasks and work till the next day. You don't want that, because if that's happening, you need to get rid of that person. That's what's the saying? Poison in the well, right? Mm-hmm. I mean, we fired a co-founder because this happened before. I'm not shy about saying it. I mean, hey Gabe, you're my boy and everything, but it didn't work out. I'm sorry. I have no reason, no qualms about it. Like if I'm not doing my job, Gather will fire me. That's it.
Yeah.
But then once you scale out and you have a larger team, you need to have department heads. You need to have structures in place, and you need to have faith, and also checks and balances in place. So KPIs, KRAs. Are these KRAs being assigned properly? Are they being utilized? And are the KPIs being met? If they're not, what is the corrective actions being taken place? You need to have proper management policies in place.
That's that great answer there. I appreciate that. Very personal answer as well. So thank you for that one there, Reggie. I've got a community question here. Rug is asking, what is the biggest revenue generating aspect of Gather? I guess we could break that question out as well. What is the biggest revenue generating aspect now, and what is the biggest revenue generating aspect in the future?
It's definitely going to be. I mean, I can't predict the future. It might change, but I think it's going to be the cloud services. The need for processing power and storage is not going to go down. This is growing year on year. CJAR quite heavily. So I believe it's going to be cloud services, which is going to be the highest USD driver in terms of revenue.
Yeah, well, I'm sure everyone is familiar with AWS. How do you get someone educated to the other options that are out there, or are they already educated and you just kind of need to contact them and say, hey, I can provide this service for 1/10 of the cost?
The IT manager or let's say the POC within the companies, they would be aware to a certain extent, but there is a certain market education factor that comes in. And, you add on top of that we're working in cryptocurrency and blockchain. Back like 2 years ago during the bear market, you go to someone and be like, hey, we're a crypto company. They're literally like going to run away from you, like you're the devil or something. I don't know.
Yeah, that we're not rat poison squared anymore. I think we're getting to the point where we're just coming out of that. But all right, Reggie, this was a great episode. I appreciate the comments there from the community. I think we touched on almost everything as it's related to Gather. Obviously feel better as well as you get over this flu here. The last question I have for you, man. I ask this to every guest I have on. Book recommendation question. Could be crypto, could be non-crypto. Up to you. I kind of drag the question on so I can give you guys time to think about it. I know it's a bigger one.
Oh, I already know this. It's
Okay.
the Situational Leadership Theory by Hershey Blanchard. It basically it sets out how you should treat different employees or people based on their skill set and motivational level. It puts them in a matrix. You have people who are lowly skilled but highly motivated, and at the other end of the spectrum, you have people that are very skilled and highly motivated. And how you treat every individual in that matrix, because everyone has their individual needs to move on to the next level, be it coaching, supporting, or delegating, for example.
Very good. I mean, you've had great answers to pretty much all the questions I've laid out here today, and you did it, kind of all while feeling how you're feeling. So I appreciate you stopping by the Layer 1 podcast today, Lad City here today, man. I'm going to be following Gather Network. I'll be, following your guys' releases as you go forward, and I'll definitely be betting on you there on any prediction market that exists.
My man. Thank you for having me on. It was an absolute pleasure.
All right, man.